How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
A fortnight into the season, RCB are 2 for 2 on the road, MI are 1 for 1 at home. One of those two things changes tonight as a new week in IPL 2025 kicks off with a blockbuster battle at Wankhede Stadium. Mumbai Indians versus Royal Challengers Bengaluru is the game we build up to on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Good evening to you, good evening to our couch. Sanjay Bangar has seen one of his former teams up close in Punjab Kings in Mullapur, and he's back on the couch to see another one of the former teams.
Yeah, very excited. I mean, RCB, the way they have started the season so far, the good thing that I like about them this season is that a number of Indian players who played for the country, so a lot of pedigree there. Apart from Virat, there are Bhuvi, experienced guy, Krunal, very good all-rounder, Jitesh, Patidar. So I think overall they put up a good squad together.
It is lovely to have you back on the couch, but I tell you who are the most excited. It is the RCB fans, because we've got Ambati Rayudu here to build up an RCB game. It is the pleasure of all of us. Rayudu, are you ready for some fireworks?
I mean, yeah, definitely. RCB, the way they have started, as Sanjay Bhai said, is great. And, we all said, in the social, whatever, media team took a video, we said, "Is Saal Cup RCB Day." Yes, no, it's never too early to celebrate for RCB, right?
That's what I was fearing. You got my question wrong, because I didn't mean fireworks at Wankhede. I meant fireworks here with you on the red couch supporting your team in red. Matt Roller, I think it's going to be a fun evening for us in the company of these two men.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think I always think of the IPL as having a big three. Two of the teams that we've got tonight and the one that Rayudu finished his career with. So always enjoyable when two of those three face off, and I think tonight should be no different.
Have you not seen the points table? The big three is Delhi Capitals, Punjab Kings and Royal Challengers Bengaluru. All right, there is already big news from the toss. It was expected that Jasprit Bumrah will make his return to competitive cricket, having not played since the Sydney Test in January. And yes, he is back. So too is Rohit Sharma. Hardik Pandya has confirmed that at the toss. We'll get you team details in just a bit. But the big thing that RCB are chasing for is a lot of demons at Wankhede. They have not won here since 2015, only 3 wins in all. 2 comprehensive wins to start the season, the defeat to GT at home. How are they placed?
I mean, the brand of cricket that they are playing should suit the surface, very similar to what they encounter at the home pitch. So, I mean, this IPL is a little bit different because they started the season quite well and they played consistent cricket. So when you see the last 3 or 4 seasons, they've been making it to the playoffs quite consistently and somehow have found the key to remain consistent. So that gives me confidence that maybe this could be the evening where they can turn things around and beat MI in their own den.
If that does happen, it would be a huge result for both sides, because even for MI, with 3 losses and 4, you reach 1 out of 5, and that puts you in slippery territory.
Yeah, and I think with those 2 players that you've mentioned coming back tonight, and Bumrah and Rohit Sharma, it really feels like there's no excuses as well. I think there's always been that slight... MI have always had that reputation of being slow starters to an IPL season, and this year probably doubly so with players missing. Hardik obviously missed their opening night as well. But I think with those two big additions, it would be a catastrophic result to suddenly be 1 and 4 at this stage of the season. And ditto RCB, if they could be in a position where they've won 3 of their first 4 games, and those at Chepauk, Eden Gardens, and the Wankhede, then suddenly you're thinking, wow, this looks like a really promising start. That said, obviously MI will be a strong opponent in their home conditions too.
Any bits in MI? Of course, there's the big subject of Bumrah, which we are going to come to. Can confirm that MI are bowling first. So we're only minutes away from seeing Jasprit Bumrah back on the field again. But when you assess MI so far, what are the areas that need to click for them?
I think their batting, especially their middle order batting, has not been great, and you can't really see them controlling the game in those middle overs and even in the death overs as well. Hardik Pandya, I feel, has not been going that great in terms of strike rate in the last few overs of the game, which he generally is known for. So these are the small little areas. If they can get better at, I feel MI are looking really good. They look balanced because their bowling is top notch this year. So the batting has to really complement their bowling.
And if you consider a bowling attack top-notch without Jasprit Bumrah, just what does it become when you add Jasprit Bumrah to the back. He is back. Can't stress on it enough. It is good news for most of the world, barring RCB, who would have thought what would it take for him to miss one more game and come into the picture after meeting us. But Sanjay, with Bumrah back, no more excuses of any kind for MI. This is now the best bowling attack they can have.
Yeah, they do have a quality attack with Bumrah, Bolt and Hardik as a backup. The choice would have to be made between an Ashwini and a Deepak Chah, and we'll know shortly of what the choice is. But overall, if you look, they also have Santner. So it's not only about Bumrah, but also the guys supporting him as well. So overall, if you look at the bowling part, they do miss a real high quality wrist spinner, but they can make do without that because of the quality of pace department that they possess.
Yeah, the deployment of overs is an intriguing aspect as well, which I'll come to in just a bit, but also want to focus on the road back for Jasprit Bumrah, because it is a huge challenge to come back from a second back injury, having had a surgery of the same body part in 2023.
It won't be easy, and especially if you are thinking of him bowling at least 3 overs in the death to bowl those Yorkers. He really needs to put that effort. Sanjay Bhai would definitely, approve that. You need a lot more effort to bowl a Yorker, and it takes a lot in terms of your back as well. So it will be interesting to see if he bowls 2 overs up front and 2 in the death to start off with in the IPL, or will he just go, full tank and bowl his Yorkers at the death. So it will be quite challenging for him and his body. Yeah.
There is the added layer, of course, Sanjay, that it was a 5-match test series which broke his back, metaphorically, and there is another 5-match test series looming for India after the IPL in England. There's also a situation of how MI and India will have to manage the workload. Can't be easy for a 3-format gun.
See, I think Jasprit, when he was captain and when the game was on line in the Sydney Test match, the compulsion or the impulse would have been for him to go out and bowl. But he realized that he cannot risk it further, despite being the game on line. So he pulled himself out and has taken a lot of time now to come back. So I don't really think that the way his workload will have to be managed from here on, because he's gotten the experience to deal with the injury, and he's also coming after a lot of rehab. And the injury didn't really come to that point wherein he was literally going to be out of the field for maybe a season or 2. So he's managed that pretty well.
Sanjay, can I ask how that relationship and dynamic works when you're a head coach in the IPL, where you've got a national board in your ear saying one of our contracted players is with you as a franchise? I suppose it might be different where it's BCCI versus another board, but I think when you guys were at RCB, Josh Hazlewood was having overs managed to some extent by Cricket Australia. Is it a tricky thing as a head coach? It must be the bane of your life.
Yeah, it's a very tricky thing, and literally, the physios will have to be in touch, because what the general procedure is, the Cricket Australia or ECB would hand over the players. They would send, their physio would send a report to our physio saying that, okay, they are cleared, they are coming with these injuries, they have to maintain this sort of a program. You have to again rely back if there is any strain to back to them, and then they will take a call as to, the player should proceed further or not. And at times, it affected certainly my time in RCB, wherein Hazlewood was, really pushed out of the IPL just when the season was on the line. So all those are calls which are nightmarish, to say the least. But
they dealt with quite sophisticated emails so that nobody understands what's in them by both parties, so that everybody gets their share of the player.
Are you looking to reveal any more details on said sophisticated emails?
So that nobody understands. That's why there are lawyers and physios in the IPL.
and generally the physios are saying, just a little bit, can't be pushed, can't play, so there's nothing. So everybody is trying to save their back, and in the bargain, I think it affects the team management, and it affects the franchise, and it affects the head coaches as well.
It is not an easy job ever. You much prefer the couch.
Very comfortable.
All right. I'm going to ask you to hold that thought on how Bumrah's overs are used eventually. Stew on it. Let's take our viewers through how Mumbai Indians are lining up. As we confirmed, Jasprit Bumrah and Rohit Sharma Both are back. Rohit on the impact bench because this is MI's bowling first 11, so you can expect Rohit Sharma to come back to open. It is Ashwini Kumar and Raj Bava who miss out from the previous side. One of the questions of intrigue will be when they come out to bat, who is the best choice at number 3? We saw Namandir at 3 last time around, Raidu, but that was because Rohit wasn't around. What do you expect to happen this time?
So I think Namandir should be batting at 3 and Will Jacks has to be that floater. If you lose a couple of wickets in the power play, then maybe Will Jacks. Otherwise, he should be batting after Hardik and maybe trying to, just fit into a new role which he has never done. But because Namandir against spin as well is very, very good, and Will Jacks maybe doesn't really look better than Namandir at this point in time at least.
So generally when you stack up a team, you're defining a particular role. So at number 3 or 4, it is a flexi role. So the term that we give is flexi banker or flexi
Floater.
Sanjay,
Bangar,
all those things.
Yeah. But is in that flexi role, when you're thinking of it as team management, do you usually have a couple of batters? Because when you look at that MI setup, you actually have maybe 4 batters who could be best suited to batting at 3 and 4. Jacks, Namandir, Tilak Verma, Surya Kumar Yadav. So does that make things more complicated?
I don't really think so with these set of players that you just enumerated. That's where Surya Kumar Yadav is your ideal number 4. You want a left-hander at 5 because you do not have a left-hander down the order right up to Santner. So you have to have a left-hander at 5. So that's an easy one. Jack's thing is pretty interesting. Namandir is an Indian batter. And at times he can slide down a little bit. But Jacks has to bat at number 3 because that's where he's at his most explosive best.
I think that's the bane of every batsman's existence. If you are too talented and can play different numbers and another batsman cannot do that, you are always put down.
Ask KL Rahul, right?
Yeah, ask KL Rahul. So you say that Will Jacks cannot play down the order, but you are saying Namandir can. That does not mean that Will Jacks can bat better than Namandir at number 3. So sometimes you just need to bat your best batsman at number 3.
What does the track record tell us of Will Jacks not batting at the top of the order?
Well, he's very much considered an opener back home in the T20 Blast for England and for Oval Invincibles in the 100. He's always been an opener. In the IPL last year, we saw him at RCB do a pretty good job at number 3. He had a really good 100 against Gujarat Titans where he took down Rashid Khan. But I would say generally the jury is probably still out on him as a player of spin. So it might be a case of the timing of a wicket that they lose, as these guys suggest. Whether you sort of use him as almost a third opener, and then he slides right down if they get through the power play. But it will be interesting. I think you're right that there are a lot of batters in there that look better suited to being higher up the order, and maybe other than Hardik Pandya, you don't see the obvious sort of finishes compared to that RCB team where you've got 3 guys that are very much suited to the end of an innings.
Yeah, intriguing calls for MI, but focusing on RCB, who will bat first. Let's take you through their lineup. It is unchanged. They haven't had a lot of spin support. We do see Suyash as one of the options to come when they bowl, as is Swapnil. Do you see one of them being the bowler coming in, or is it likely to be Rasik?
Depends on how the surface plays, that they've left enough options for them to choose. Seeing how the wicket pans out, the kind of score that they have, whether Dew sets in early or not. It will be very difficult for me to foresee Swapnil coming in and bowling. So I would, in all probability, go to Suyash, who can come and bowl a little bit of leg spin if required.
All right, that will be something we'll keep an eye out for. Let's see what change RCB opt for. There is Krunal Pandya in the lineup, of course, who is familiar with Wankhede, also familiar with the captain on the other side, isn't he? But since RCB are batting first, their batting intent is such a big topic when you consider the turnaround, the sensational turnaround that they had last season. It was Wankhede, which was one of those games where the story flipped for RCB, isn't it? Yeah,
it was an interesting game last year. It was game 6 of they obviously started with 1 win from 8 games, and it was game 6 in that streak. And it was a game where RCB batting first got what looked like quite a good score on paper in, I think, 195, 196. And MI ended up chasing it in the 16th over, I think, so it absolutely rolled them. And that was a game where afterwards, Faf du Plessis, the captain, came out and sort of acknowledged the fact that he felt they needed to go a lot harder. They did lose their next 2 games, but with big totals. And our stats team have done some really good work sort of comparing the numbers between the 23 and the start of the 24 season versus what we've seen since then. So you can see that their run rate has shot up to more than 10 and over since that game at the Wankhede last year. They've obviously been on a really good run at the end of last season as well, and have started all right this year as well with 2 wins out of 3. I think the big thing, if you look through, is sort of the intent with the bat. They've been one of the best boundary hitting teams in the league. Obviously helps when you play home games at the Chinnaswamy, but you can see the numbers in terms of boundary hitting are the best in the league since then. Part of that last year was down to Virat Kohli, who really went for it in the second half of last year and I think set the tone at the top of the order. This year they do have a slightly changed team in terms of personnel, but you can see guys like Phil Salt has been super aggressive opening the batting, Rajat Patidar through the middle, and then the power at the death with Livingston, Jitesh and Tim David. So it really, as you say, Yash, it has been a really big turnaround in terms of intent, and I think you can see that in results. It sort of looks like an RCB team of old, hitting the ball in the air, hitting the ball for 6. And I'll be interested to hear what Rayudu and Sanjay think of the situation in terms of that turnaround in the last sort of season and a bit.
I think Sanjay has something to add to that because he was with RCB and he wants to...
In 2023, which are the games that you're talking of, or is it the entire
I think that's
season?
the entire season.
Yeah.
What you saw on the left of your screen was all of 2023 and the first 6 games.
Yeah, and that's
of
where
24.
that's where the stats can be a little bit skewed because there were 2 low-scoring games against Lucknow as well as against Rajasthan Royals. The Lucknow game was 130. We defended that. The Rajasthan Royals was 140. We defended that, and that sort of brings down the entire scoring rate as well.
And that was a very strong bowling team as well, wasn't it? It was probably a different setup almost to some of the RCB teams, in that you did have a pretty strong bowling attack.
We had a strong bowling, but I think the major difference to that is the emergence of Rajat Patidar as a spin hitter. Because if there's one thing that has actually changed, and Patidar wasn't part of the scheme of things because again he missed out because of an injury in 2023. So it is the role of Rajat Patidar and how well he has done it. You can make up the difference, because otherwise Faf was doing the job which Phil Salt is doing, Virat is there anyway. Then DK was doing the job which Tim David is doing. So not much has changed except for the fact that Rajat Patidar has taken that role really, really well and excelled in it.
And when that turnaround did happen halfway through last season, one of the key contributors was also the man who will now turn out for Mumbai Indians in Will Jacks, who too was scoring a lot of runs and hitting a lot of sixes. Because if we go back to that batting intent graphic, you will notice, and I want to hear from you what you put it down to, just that shift in lofted shots. I mean, they are first in all these categories that we're showing on the screen, but lofted shots going from just over 20% to nearly 30%. What do you attribute that to?
I think, as the stats show their intent and also the clarity with which they're coming out to bat is quite evident this season. Everybody are going for it right from, if you can say ball 1, most of them just come out and, I wouldn't say swing hard, but play some really good shots, and that's been the key for their success this season and also the last season when they went on a run to win those games. It's quite good to watch a team that has always been good historically in the IPL, could have beaten any side on their day, but this intent, if they continue for the whole of IPL, they look really good.
Just for added context on that lofted shots metric, where RCB are 29% from the start of the second half of last season, KKR and Sunrisers, who were the pace setters, yes, I know it's a different story for Sunrisers right now, but their numbers are still obviously quite staggering. Even they were in the 25% mark. Do you put any of that down to Chinnaswamy? I've heard a lot on commentary at times about how the ball just travels more. Does that have anything to do when we see inflated, lofted shots?
If the surface allows you, you can play through the line really well. And those figures are more for first 6 overs, because if you can clear the infield with ease, I think it sort of gets the figures up quite well. And another thing, because it's slightly above sea level, and there are a couple of grounds as well wherein the ball tends to travel faster because there's lesser air resistance. So that could also be one of the factors. But clearly, it has got to do with the surface, because once the surface allows you to play through the line, then the batsman can really play with the intent and hit those sixes and play the ball in the air.
And also one reason why I feel there's so many lofted shots hit at the Chinnaswamy, because having played there, when the ground is slightly small, you don't see gaps as much. As a batsman, you see a lot of fielders and the angles are cut. So once you don't see gaps, your intent is to go over the fielder most of the times. So we all felt that even while batting. So we always used to take the 6 option instead of hitting a cut for a 4 or something like
didn't
that.
you love to deposit the ball in the Chinnaswamy stands, silent spectators playing for MI and CSK? You did. You had a fair few sixes there.
And I just hope the RCB fans remember those. When we used to beat
For all
them.
you know, I mean, even I hit a couple of sixes in the last stages of my playing career, but whenever I played at RCB, at Bangalore, whether it could be the Challenger Trophy or it could be for the India A, very easy to hit sixes on that particular ground, because you just chip it and it goes. So enjoyed batting there.
This is something I've heard. I know obviously tonight's game was in Wankhede, but something I've heard generally is that one of the problems RCB have always had in terms of lack of home advantage is that every other batter rocks up to the Chinnaswamy and thinks that they have an
No,
advantage.
that's because in the pre-season, when you practice in bigger grounds like Chepauk, you tend to get a much better swing at the ball. And sometimes we used to find it even more easier getting into Chinnaswamy. It used to feel small and you feel like you can hit every ball out of the park.
We're going to have a lot more time to discuss Chinnaswamy when RCB return there and how they fare. But with RCB's batting intent and how they go about things at Wankhede, which too is of course such a high scoring ground, while we focus on Mumbai's pacers and the return of Jasprit Bumrah, an equally important component of MI's bowling attack they're hoping this year is Mitchell Santner, and the start to the season has been quieter than what you expected, Sanjay?
Well, I mean, he's a guy who has done the job more often than not for New Zealand, hasn't really played consistently in IPL. He was part of CSK squad for a long amounts of time, but this is going to be his real test because he's playing as a frontline spinner. MI would want him to play the length of the season. So clearly the verdict will be out as far as T20 bowler is concerned after maybe another few games, and that's when we will really have the chance to assess Mitchell Santner as a pure frontline spinner in T20 cricket in IPL.
There's an intriguing matchup in play today, of course, with Kohli, and the T20 numbers are decent, but I think since 2023 in 8 innings, he's got him 5 times across formats. But in an RCB lineup which has a lot of other spin bashers, how do you expect that to play out?
Yeah, interesting one. I think conditions obviously play a bit of a role, and I think if you look at the MI attack with Bolt, Deepak Chahar and Bumrah, you'd imagine that Santner's probably unlikely to bowl until the middle overs. So if he's bowling at Kohli by then, that suggests that MI have had a slow start to the game. I think Santner is an interesting one, as Sanjay says, sort of filling this role as a frontline spinner. If you look, most teams in the IPL will have a real, genuine wrist spinner. Obviously, MI are trying to use their scouting with Vignesh Patur coming in, but Santner is very much the number one, and actually started quite well at the Wankhede in his first game there, obviously in that big win against KKR this time last week.
Yep.
But probably less effective than you'd imagine on the road. So it'll be interesting to track how he does through the season, because I think he's a very good, world-class spinner, as we saw in 50-over cricket at the Champions Trophy.
You'd imagine his role comes a little later in the piece, but there's so much intrigue around the start of this contest. Virat Kohli, possibly Jasprit Bumrah, Deepak Chahar, Trent Bolt, lots to unpack. Let's get straight into it. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents Power Play Conversations. It could be one of the trickier games Hardik Pandya has led a side in, because all of a sudden you've got a new ball with Trent Bolt, who's best suited to using it, Deepak Chahar, who's so good with it, and Jasprit Bumrah, who's not too bad with it either.
Let's play the safer option, 6 overs of seam. Now from whom it comes, it's Hardik Pandya's headache. But I would imagine Hardik not bowling in the first 6 and Bumrah bowling at least a couple and maybe 2 each from all those 3 frontline seamers.
No, I mean, I would love to see Hardik bowl 1 over at least because there is grass on the pitch in the last game that we have seen, and there was enough help for the fast bowlers. So maybe Hardik can get the ball to seam around. Bumrah maybe 1 over in the power play, maybe not 2, and 4 from Deepak and Trent Bolt.
Those numbers on the screen are interesting, Matt, aren't they? Because they are among the worst ranked teams in the competition. But if you consider that one game at Wankhede, they had KKR at 41 for 4.
Yeah, they were really on top that day, and the new ball was nipping around a bit off the seam. Obviously, Bolt got Sunil Narayan early and sort of set the tone for the whole game, really, with that first over. I think Bolt is an interesting one against Kohli early on. I remember a couple of years ago watching Bolt smash one into his shin, I think first or second ball at the Chinnaswamy when he was playing for Rajasthan. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops, because I think, as we saw in RCB's most recent game against GT, they do rely on their top order, and if that sort of top 3 doesn't score the runs that they're after, they do have a strong middle order as well. But obviously that opening pair of Salt and Kohli are going to set the tone for them.
I think the real hard call would be taking into account who is going to be the guy to bowl to Phil Salt. Because in the last match we saw how Siraj really hit the ball, dug it into the pitch and got it to rise higher up. So will MI be tempted to use Jasprit at Phil Salt? Because if they do open with Deepak Char, they run the risk of RCB getting off to a flyer if the ball doesn't swing. Because at his pace, both these RCB openers would want to clear the infields. That might not be the case if they were to use Bumrah in the first and the third over.
Let's just remind ourselves of how Mumbai Indians were utilising Jasprit Bumrah last season. That was when Hardik Pandya just returned to the team. There were a lot more overs. I think that's a greater percentage of overs than Bumrah ever bowled in a season. But now, when you have an MI bowling lineup, which does have Bolt and Deepak Chahar, who you tend to associate as best used in the power play, will that change?
Yeah, I think it should because that balances their bowling attack, and they have picked 2 bowlers who have picked up top ranked bowlers who have picked up the most wickets in the power play, Bolt and Deepak Chahar, who swing the ball quite well on both ways, and this wicket, this Wankhede pitch will suit their bowling style. So Bumrah might have to bowl 3 in the last end of the bowling. Yeah.
I'll tell you the one thing which is a very mouth-watering prospect. If he does bowl a lot in the power play, Virat Kohli versus Jasprit Bumrah, because the numbers will tell you it is as explosive as matchups come. The bowlers got the batter out a lot, and that strike rate of nearly 150, not too many batters achieved that against Jasprit Bumrah.
Yeah, and we were seeing some footage earlier on TV of a young Bumrah dismissing Kohli when he was bursting through into the IPL. So
it was his first wicket in the IPL, Virat Kohli.
There you go, and I think it's always enjoyable. We quite often see this play out in other countries' cases where you have international teammates going head to head in the IPL, but I suppose it's possibly less common in all T20 cricket in the case of Indian players because they don't play outside of the IPL. So the opportunity to see Bumrah v Kohli, it's always going to be a mouth-watering one, isn't it?
Yeah. All things about this seem quite mouth-watering. Bumrah's back, Kohli is opening. Lots to look forward to. Let's tuck into predictions, shall we, Sanjay? I want not just a score, but what you expect from Bumrah.
I'm expecting a spell of under 24 runs and picking up minimum of 2 wickets from Bumrah. 4 overs, 24 runs, 2 wickets.
And the score you said for RCB?
Score under 200, so 190.
So the other bowlers are leaking a lot then.
No, that's still a good score.
All right. Rayudu?
I think around 180. 180 for RCB and Bumrah 4 overs 30 for maybe 1 wicket.
I'll go 200 for RCB, given it's Wankhede, given the ball tends to travel. Bumrah to ease back with 1 for 32.
Ooh, it's expensive by his standards.
Yeah, so I think I am backing Jasprit Bumrah the most to pick up 2 wickets and bowl at an economy of 6 runs and over.
All right. Can't wait to see how all of it unfolds and can't wait to see how you guys fare. We'll be back at the end of the innings to see how you all have fared. Thank you so much, Sanjay, Rayudu, Matt. Look forward to your company through the evening. The stage is set. RCB are out to bat against Mumbai Indians. Be sure to join us at the end of the innings on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.